Today's lecture is our second hybrid lecture of the Southeast Asia Lecture Hall, co-organized by Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia, FPCI, and Universiti Malaya. We are joined by students here in Kuala Lumpur, as well as participants tuning in online from not only the 11 Southeast Asian countries, but also from Australia, Argentina, Bangladesh, Germany, India, Ireland, Nigeria, Serbia, and many more. We also extend a warm welcome to our distinguished speakers and guests attending today. Tan Sri Syed Hamid Albar, Malaysia's former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Home Affairs, and Minister of Defense. Dr. Dino, Patti Djalal, founder and chairman of Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia. Dato Sri Mustafa Muhammad, Malaysia's former Minister of International Trade and Industry. Professor Dr. Danny Wong, Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, Universiti Malaya. His Excellency Dato Indira Harmono, Ambassador of Indonesia to Malaysia, is joining online. Her Excellency Orla Tane, Ambassador of Ireland to Malaysia. Welcome to all. Ladies and gentlemen, since 2021, FPCI has convened the Southeast Asia Lecture Hall, which is a series of virtual lectures delivered by prominent academics and experts in their fields to students and lecturers across Southeast Asia. Throughout the past 2 years, the Southeast Asia Lecture Hall has managed to partner with 74 public and private universities across the 11 Southeast Asian countries, and we would like to acknowledge the partners from all over the region. Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue with the lecture, we would like to invite Professor Dr. Danny Wong to deliver his welcoming remarks. Thank you.
Tan Sri Syed Hamid Albar, Foreign Minister, former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Malaysia. Dr. Dino, Patti, Djalal, Chairman and also founder of the Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia. Dr. Sri Mustafa Muhammad, former Minister of International Trade and Industry. Tan Sri Djalal Hassan, our former chairman of the ISIS Malaysia. Friends, colleagues, members of the diplomatic corps, ladies and gentlemen, our students, those of you who are here, as well as those who are online. This is a hybrid lecture. We are very honored to welcome all of you to this oldest part of the University of Malaya. This is the oldest first lecture theater. Of course, those days it was all wooden and hard benches, but today you have a little bit comfort with a bit of cushions and so on. But this is also the hall where Lee Kuan Yew and also Tunku all have lectured here. So we were told that when they were giving lectures, the seats are all filled up, as well as the stairs all filled up. And those are very historical moments. And we are very honored, the faculty is very honored, the university as well, to welcome all of you to the 25th edition of the Southeast Asian Lecture Hall. This is a lecture hall. This can be done anywhere, but we are very happy and honored to be given that privilege to have it, to host it, first time outside of Indonesia. And we want to thank Dr. Dino and his team for approaching us to do this. This is not the first time we are working together. I think this is probably the second or third time, as well as many other occasions where we get to meet each other and work together. And we hope this will be the beginning of more things to come in the future. And thus far, all our collaborations have been fruitful. And just as we can see today, we are very happy to see this lecture theater almost full now. We hope to fill it up. Maybe even the tangga, the stairs will be also filled up. Ladies and gentlemen, this topic that we are going to have has been selected by Tan Sri Syed Hamid Albar. This is actually a very timely topic, the journey of ASEAN. And what more, this is the year when we are taking over. We means Malaysia is taking over as the chairmanship, taking over the chairmanship of ASEAN. And we know that ASEAN has a long list of things to do, a lot of things to be accomplished, especially as we prepare the region towards an ASEAN community. To realize that goal, to realize that aim is no easy task. And I certainly look forward to Malaysia leading the pack. Will be able to accomplish some of these things, some of these important things that we have listed down on our wish list. And this is something that we all have to work together. But we are very honored and happy to have Tan Sri Hamid to come to share with us because, you know, he was not just the Minister of Foreign Affairs, he was also Minister of Defense. He was also Minister of Home Affairs. So in other words, he's not just an outside person. He was inside out. With that kind of perspectives, I think we would be benefiting a lot from his lecture. So I believe all of you will be waiting, impatiently to hear, to listen to Tan Sri Syed Hamid. And we are very happy that our students and friends can turn up today here to fill up the hall. And also, we have other friends who are online. So all the partners that we see on the screen just now, all the logos of the universities and institutions, they are also hosting this lecture, or rather they are tuning in, they are streaming in to listen to this lecture as well. So this is not just a 200 people or 400 people kind of lecture. This is a regional lecture. And this is truly a lecture hall that deserves a lot of support. And once again, we want to thank Dr. Dino and the team for bringing this program to us. And we hope that, we pray that this program will go from strength to strength. And ladies and gentlemen, I shouldn't keep you away, to be in the middle between you and Tan Sri Syed Hamid. I just want to welcome all of you once again and thank you for coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Danny Wong. We ask you please stay on the stage, Professor Dr. Danny Wong. And I now invite Dr. Dino to please also come on the stage and give a special remembrance from FPCI to University Malaya. Thank you. Thank you. Without further ado, I now hand over the floor to the moderators of today's session, Dr. Dino Patti Djalal, founder and chairman of Foreign Policy Community of Indonesia. You may have the floor, sir. And I now invite Tan Sri Syed Hamid Albar to have the floor as well.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Pertama saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih. Sorry, should I speak in Bahasa or in English? Okay. What? Okay, I'll speak in English. Actually, yes, we'll speak in English because we have so many online participants from around the region and around the world. I want to thank the University of Malaya for joining us and becoming our partner for this event. Thank you, Professor Danny Wong, and of course, special thanks to Tan Sri, Syed Hamid Albar. I've known you for a long time, and I'm actually in awe that I'm actually sitting next to him. When I was a junior diplomat, he was already a foreign minister. So thank you for this great honor. Tan Sri Muhammad Johar Hassan, who's diplomat, an awesome diplomat who's also a friend of my father. And very much look up to him for as a really sterling diplomat from Malaysia. And also, as I saw earlier, Datuk Sri Mustafa Muhammad, there he is, yeah. And everybody, thank you. So just before I invite Tan Sri Hamid, just one observation. I was in a Munich Security Conference recently, Tan Sri, and they had this shock, which was the speech by Vice President Vance, that and after that, the Europeans were thinking, what do we do now? Because the American protector is disengaging, according to them, right? And this is when I realized that ASEAN has a very different strategic culture. The European strategic culture is we have this American big guy, great protector of ours. ASEAN never had that, right? We don't have anyone we claim to be a protector, right? So a very different strategic culture. And what is also special about ASEAN is that over the year, we have established an anti-hegemonic regional system. You know, a system where nobody really dominates, no one inside and no one from the outside. And, you know, that is quite special. If you look at other regional organizations, you know, it's usually not like that, right? So ASEAN has been really able to define its own path and find its own ways of doing to be where we are now. I really do think that ASEAN has demonstrated is what I would call ASEAN exceptionalism. You know, not an arrogant thing, not way better than you, but a way of doing things that is different, but fits to our purpose of establishing regional cooperation, regional unity, and stability in Southeast Asia. So I'm really glad that Tan Sri Hamid will talk about the history of ASEAN and also what Malaysia intends to achieve, especially in this very challenging and interesting and unstable time in international relations. So I'm looking very much forward to your presentation, Syed Hamid, and we'll follow up with discussions. Please, there are going to be a lot of questions springing from your mind when you hear Syed Hamid speak. We'll have about 45 minutes to accommodate your questions after Syed Hamid's presentation. Please, Tan Sri. Yes.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. You know, there is a reason why I decided to speak from the rostrum rather than sitting down speaking. Well, rostrum has always been my source of inspiration to look at the audience, and at the same time, it gives me idea as I speak what I should tell. Anyway, thank you, Dino, our moderator, Dr. Dino Patti Djalal. I know your father, famous father, very well. And I've always the greatest of respect for him. I think Indonesia is known for its very good, soft diplomacy. And I think there is the very essence when we talk about ASEAN. Anyway, now let me do the normal, formal protocol. Dr. Dino Patti Djalal, Tan Sri Jauhar, Professor Dr. Danny Wong, Dean of the Faculty, Datuk Sri, my colleague Datuk Sri Mustafa Muhammad, I think distinguished academics, students, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to say my feeling of thanks to the organizer and to Pak Dino especially for inviting me to share a discussion on ASEAN. I think on today's, and I feel greatly honored to be speaking in the same space as previous leaders of ASEAN here. I'm always overawed when Professor Denny says, oh, this is a very historical place. It's the first place. It was a wooden place. I'm quite happy that we don't stay wooden. But now, it's a very, I think when you go to a place, or you are in a place where there is a historical sense for everything, you get the feeling that you must be able to captivate that historical feeling. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about history, how ASEAN moved. So, I'm grateful that you give me the same space as Nobel Laureate President Jose Ramos Horta, good friend of mine of Timor-Leste. And I think soon they will become a member of ASEAN. Our geographical footprint will be slightly shifted from South Asia 10 to something that includes in the Pacific, the Indo-Pacific thing. And I think it was also the ASEAN Secretary General, Dato' Lim Jock Hui, was also speaking in the same space. I was with his brother, I think, Lim Jock Sing. Recently, I think a few weeks ago, we had a discussion organized, called Amity Circle, to discuss the latest geopolitical dynamics in the region as well as the world, as well as ASEAN's role in the context of what is happening around us. I think very interestingly, our moderator started with taking note of Van's speech to the European. I was actually shocked when I heard that speech or listening to the speech from the beginning. I mean, for a US vice president to speak to the Europeans, and I think speaking like a teacher telling their students what you need to do, what you need to correct. And this is just like telling China, you're a peasant. I mean, every one of us would begin from being a peasant, and then we move on. But this is a country that has no history that they can speak. The Europeans have got a longer history. They started to get together, started to introduce all the political models that we are seeing, the nation-state concept, and then you are telling them what to do. Actually, it's more of the hegemony of what Pak Dino just mentioned. Europe has always looked at the America as leader. I think in one of the, Tan Sri Jauhar was there, when the German, we were talking about, there was a seminar. You know, while I'm talking, I will be deviating, you know, from, because this is to give it the context. Because ASEAN cannot isolate itself. Somebody, I think a former High Commissioner of Singapore here, he said the problem with ASEAN is that, recently he was saying, the problem with ASEAN, we never looked at what is happening beyond our shores. We only look what is happening closer to us. So what is happening in Europe, all the things that is taking place in Europe, we tend to ignore. We tend, like the Ukraine, say, for example, we are too far from it. It will not impact on us. So now we are seeing that that is not possible. We cannot isolate ourselves. We have to be part of the world. We have to be in the mainstream in order for us to be able to play a role. So I think he was saying that, I think the topic that I have chosen to speak is about the topic on ASEAN historical journey and Malaysia, which I think is symbolically relevant to the topic at hand. That's why I have joined in. I think in a time of rising wars between nations, I remember when our founding fathers started to think about ASEAN in 1967. It was for one reason. We do not want to be under the dominance or hegemonic control of any big powers. That was the essence, the core and fundamental principle of our formation. We say we do not want to become a platform for big power rivalry. So we came up with quite a number of things. Subsequently, we came up with Treaty of Amity and Cooperation. We came up with ZOPFAN. ASEAN was always ahead of its time in order not to be dominated. But I'm saying that now that has changed. The dynamics have changed. It's no longer what it was. Maybe we have not fulfilled the true spirit. And I think even in the spirit of Bandung, when we talk about Bandung, Bandung is a lot of ASEAN leaders then were responsible. I think one of them is Indonesia. Indonesia played a great role. In ASEAN is neutral, but at the same time not passive. We are never hegemonic. We want to be our own self. So you can understand our non-interference and all sorts of things. So I think in a time of rising wars between nations, ASEAN actually can stand firm as an organization that can build bridges, which is in many ways the spirit of, if we look back at put it in our historical context, our spirit of Gotong Royong. That is what ASEAN was, working together without forcing, trying to convince each other, arriving at consensus, trying to get agreement. But of course, this can be quite frustrating for people who don't understand the way that we move. And this is also, in my view, when we talk about Gotong Royong, it is actually the very thing that is ASEAN. Because ASEAN was formed for mutual cooperation. Gotong Royong is mutual cooperation. This is what we wanted to achieve. Building bridges is precisely how we became a substantial force on the global stage. A sort of superpower. We call ourselves superpower, or now we like to say middle power. A superpower with a population, not a small population, so don't have the complex of, oh, we are small. We are small individually, but I like to see ASEAN interpret and translate itself into a collective organization where our view is a collective view, when our action is a collective action that must be respected and given the necessary dignity that it deserves. And we rival, with 600 million population, we rival other superpowers. We have more, our population is more than the US, our population is more than Europe. So all these things are important factors that we should factor in when we are looking at ASEAN. We are, in my view, a testament, you know, because of my age, to the power of unity, and also a testament to the power of diversity. How you create, you know, unity, at the same time, how do you manage your diversity? These are the two important elements that we have done quite, I think, quite well in doing so. We are powerful. You know, part of our culture is not to be arrogant and proud and say you're strong and powerful. This, particularly in our part of the world, our concept of not making sure that whatever we do, whatever comment we make. I remember one of our European dialogue partners, Luxembourg, when they attended the thing, I don't understand ASEAN. I said, why? You have got a lot of problem within yourself, but you never tell each other off. You see, you have to be polite, and yet the problem is very serious. They are not complying with so many fundamental things that we look at, human rights, at democracy. For us in Europe, we have told them off. I said, that's not the way we do things, but we get things done. We do not speak loudly, but in our quiet diplomacy, behind closed doors, we decide and determine a lot of matters and issues that get us to arrive at a decision. So that's how, you know, I think we have got, economically, we are powerful, our workforce and our natural resources, and politically, with our 10-member nation in engaging, I consider, in a unique and oftentimes criticized form of diplomacy. We have got our own way. So if we look at it since 1967, ASEAN has been guided by the principle of consensus and non-interference. Let me say that I often get frustrated with this non-interference and consensus. But I was less vocal when I was a foreign minister in order to keep the spirit of ASEAN, in order to make sure that you don't lose face by telling off each other. In our culture, you cannot tell off because you don't want people to lose face. Even the words of your enemy, you say it nicely. So, this is called, if I think for the young people, this is what sometimes frustrates the European, but we understood it very well. We call it the ASEAN way. Never be aggressive, never be confrontational, but engaging with dialogue and diplomacy. That's what we are. And that's, I think, the very reason why we have survived up to now. You imagine when, I just like to say that, as a foreign minister, say, for example, a foreign minister can comment or criticize a country generally, but you don't criticize a leader of another country personally. That is not diplomatically proper. So even though he is wrong, or you consider that they are not as clever in handling certain contentious matters, but there is a way of saying it. So this is the ASEAN way. I think this approach, the ASEAN way, with the emphasis of the ASEAN way is dialogue. And most importantly, mutual respect. This one has been instrumental, in my view, in maintaining our regional stability. The ASEAN way is often described as slow. You know, because step by step, I remember my colleague always, sometimes Malaysia can be quite aggressive on promoting its ideas and views. You know, you must do step by step. Don't upset our, fellow ASEAN member. This step by step, they consider it as slow, cumbersome, and not efficient. So, but if you take, for example, Lao Tzu remind us, take the quotation from the Lao Tzu. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. You don't have to hurry. Everything is accomplished. You go take step by step, one by one. Or in modern terms, if it is in modern terms, this is ASEAN way. In modern terms, they always say, trust the process. You know, I recently talked at the Amity Circle. I said one of the things that I want to talk about is agility of ASEAN. But you talk about process. I prefer to talk about outcome. But then, without the process, you will not have the outcome that you desire. So I think this is important. I think our way, this ASEAN way, values harmony. We put a lot of importance to harmony over haste, relationship, and rhetoric. If you look at ASEAN, doesn't have very much publicity. As an organization, it doesn't have publicity. It doesn't seek to be popular, but it wants to get its work done. So despite the many issues we face today, I feel that we should still recognize that ASEAN project that our founding fathers pursued is a success. Actually, when I say it's a success, I also have listed about 10 criticisms about ASEAN. But let's not discuss. If you look at the failures, you will never know your success. So it is important for us to be proud of our success and believe it, and you will overcome your problems. So they have done very well economically, politically, and in terms of regional security. This is the only region, Europe have taught all kinds of things. All the wars are created by Europe. I was listening to Jeffrey Sachs say, in 5 years, America has created about 7 wars all over the world. So all these things is not ASEAN. People tend to think because of this, ASEAN is so passive, refuse to. We are seen as less important. But that is not the way it is. We want to make sure that the only time I think we went to war with each other, in a small way, was the dispute. And that one also was resolved subsequently. We believe in third-party resolution, conflict resolution through third-party ICJ on the Cambodia-Thai border on the time. But that ultimately was resolved. So even on the, you thought that it would be very difficult to resolve the Aceh issue. It was resolved. Mindanao. All these things are because we place importance not to be confrontational and use our physical military power in order to show that we are stronger and our terms should be adhered to. So I think that is not to say that there isn't more work to be done. We certainly face ongoing political and institutional challenges. But when it comes to the original goal of creating a unified regional bloc, ASEAN has undoubtedly succeeded. So and it has done quite well. Today, it stands not as a tool of global superpowers, but as a maturing and diplomatic entity, increasingly recognized and respected on the global stage. I think the creation of ASEAN in 1967, though, through the Bangkok Declaration, this is where we want to form an organization where we work together for mutual respect, for development, and yet we do not want to enter into a formal agreement. ASEAN was formed just by declaration. That's how we started. That's how careful and cautious when it comes to understanding the various issues and sensitivities. It was, we have tested with Malindo, we have tested with ASA. We are regional. I think our feeling of regionalism is very strong. I think background. Seattle, which is a military pact, dominated. If we had gone that way, we would have become part of the. So it's a problem. It will be another NATO. So, but we didn't. Even Tengku, when he was asked, why you don't want to join Seattle? Oh, my rakyat will not accept this because it will be a military pact. So all these things, I think, it is important for us to bring back the historical context of what we were to the present day so that it's easier for us. So, the non-formal agreement, Bangkok Declaration in 1967, to me it was a bold act of regional diplomacy and strategic foresight in a time of intense global turbulence. You know, at that time, it was very difficult. There are a lot of issues and challenges. It came during the height of the Cold War. You know, there was we even believe that if Vietnam falls, there will be a domino theory. Everything will fall and become communist. I think even in our case, it drove Tengku to form Malaysia quickly because the British and the American was advising us, if you don't do that, there will be the domino coming to our end, we will become communists. At that time, there was that fear. But these fears are real. Eh? It's not simply imaginative or illusory. It's real. It can happen. So we took that precautionary. So when South Asia was a geopolitical fault line marked by ideological rivalry, armed conflict, post-colonial fragility, and the looming shadow of superpower intervention. The 5 original members, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, and Thailand, understood that only through unity and cooperation could they secure their sovereignty and chart a future independent of external domination. I think behind everything that we do, we are so conscious of not wanting external domination. That is important. So I think that this impulse, my view I consider as impulse, or the motivation or the driving force toward regionalism was deeply rooted by the broader context of decolonization and post-war recovery. The mid-20th century saw the unraveling of European colonial empires across Southeast Asia as newly independent nations emerged from decades, if not, I think, centuries of foreign rule. These young states face immense challenges. First, we have to consider to rebuild our war-torn economies, and then asserting national identity and avoiding the ideological traps of Cold War alignment. I remember one of the members of parliament in Britain when Malaya sought independence. Interestingly, he was one of the persons who objected to giving Malaya independence because it was a divided country. It has no sense of identity. Each race looks at itself as separate ethnic group. So his remark, in that, if you look at the answer, his remark is that this Malaya is going to be a failed state, and Sri Lanka, at that time Ceylon, would be better. Alhamdulillah, that became a challenge to us. And I think you have to give it, whether you have to give it to Tengku. The type of diplomacy that he plays in order to bring everybody, that has got some goodwill, but lack of trust. There is a deficit, cultural deficit and everything that we do, but we brought together. So I think that spirit of each one of us from colonial rule that we learn, we synchronize it into ASEAN. So ASEAN move is in fact very calculated. It's not by accident. So I think for many leaders, regional cooperation was not only a strategic necessity, but a way to consolidate hard-won sovereignty. in the first place, our non-interference, you don't have to be democratic. I think people object to Malaysia becoming, because we had at one time we have the Anglo-Malaysia Defence Arrangement, AMDA. Then subsequently we have got the five-power arrangement with some Commonwealth countries. We say, but we say, okay, we will ignore the system, but we look at the nation working together for mutual benefit. And we did that. So I think the memory of colonial division and foreign domination drove a determination for us to ensure that South Asia would no longer be a passive arena for great power competition. I think they made a right decision, not to be in it, but an active community of independent nations shaping their own destiny. So I think if you look at the historical document, the Bangkok Declaration, it emphasized principles. Both I consider as pragmatic and visionary. The principles, first, mutual respect. 2, non-interference. 3, peaceful settlement of dispute. And regional solidarity. These are the principles that. These principles, though sometimes contentious in practice, laid the groundwork for a form of regionalism uniquely suited to Southeast Asia's diversity. If you look at the population demography of Southeast Asia, we have got slight majority of the population are Muslim, and then we have got the Buddhists, and then we've got small numbers of Christians and other religion, Hindus and all sort of things. So from the beginning, we have to deal with diversity. So, I mean, don't be excited, oh, it's a diverse thing, we cannot manage. Your nation have managed all the diversity in order to form ASEAN, and we have done it very well. So I think unlike the European Union's more integrated model, ASEAN developed through consensus and flexibility, allowing to accommodate vast differences in political systems. We call ourselves democracy, but the Europeans don't define us as democratic. But I think we have done better than them. Development levels, a different rate of development levels, and strategic priority among its members. So I think, how many minutes more do I have? You see, I can go on and on and on. So, but I think I would be better off when I leave it to you to ask the question. So, but I will try to go as quickly as possible. The notes I have to do justice to my own research. You must allow me to speak. But anyway, I'll try to do it. So diplomatically, ASEAN, we establish ourselves as a vital forum it's a vital forum for intra-regional dialogue and confidence building. In our Amity Circle discussion, very interestingly enough, one of the presenters for the former foreign ministers, these were all the former foreign ministers, we asked an expert on AI to speak to us. But looking at the AI presentation, we thought maybe the work of diplomacy and dialogue may not be necessary anymore because it can be replaced. Nowadays, I was asking one of the professors from New Zealand at that meeting after that. I said, with ChatGPT and all this DeepSeek and all sort of thing, you don't need human students. And then we were discussing about students. Your theses and everything can be written very well, maybe in better English also. But the ChatGPT, you can get, they will do everything. So I think Marty immediately went into it and showed, what do you think of ASEAN? And the whole lot within seconds, more than what we have discussed. But I think one thing that was made very clear is that diplomacy and dialogue is still necessary because if we look at AI, it is data-based. It doesn't reflect the emotions, the feeling, and also I think that is required for diplomacy and dialogue. So I think ASEAN, I just like to stress, we have succeeded in establishing it as a neutral platform where member state could manage dispute. This one you may ask the question, how do we manage Myanmar? How do you manage the South China Sea? What we cannot manage, sometimes we don't speak. So, over the years, I think South China Sea, I remember my Chinese colleague was telling me, you know, we forget about the sovereignty issue. Let us develop together and get the benefit of the economic resources in ours. We said that's all right. But they say that in that case, we would like to discuss with the claimant state individually. My reaction to that, we cannot discuss individually because we do not know what you agreed on or something, because there is overlapping. I think this Dino, Pak Djalal lebih faham daripada isu ni. So we say no. And this is the thing, I think one of the things that I like to point out. ASEAN should not consider any disputes that affect the region as individual problems, but it should be considered as collective problem. The South China Sea dispute must be, all ASEAN must be acting together in order to resolve that, not individual, Malaysia, Brunei, and the other two claimant states. So, what we still have got. But the creation of institutions like ASEAN Regional Forum, the ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting Plus, ADMM Plus, or East Asia Summit underscores Asian central role in the broader Indo-Pacific security architecture. I just want to touch a little bit before I come to the conclusion. But you know, this is not our term, this Indo-Pacific business. I think it is better for us to stick to Asia-Pacific. Asia-Pacific is a true and bigger regional area that has played a greater role in terms of politics, economic, and history. That's what we were in the Asia-Pacific, not the Indo-Pacific. Indo-Pacific is in order to suit the hegemonic and dominance of certain powers. And they want to drag us into the rivalry. We don't mind. I think I would prefer that. We don't talk about competition or rivalry. Let us talk about cooperation. That is the very essence of ASEAN's formation. So we can do that. So I think, I remember Patla asking me, you know, when we were the ASEAN chair in 2005, I think, we want to have the first East Asia Summit. And this East Asia, our basis then for East Asia was geographical footprint. It must be on geographical footprint. What does geographical footprint? It must be, you must be within that region, you know, the geography of that region. If you're outside it, you cannot be brought. So, say this one, you want to establish to be accepted. This is the thing that we must get used to. We want to establish East Asia Economic Group, rejected because there was no Western. East Asia Economic Caucus was rejected, was not accepted by our big brother. And our view is that there is no big brother among us. You know, you talk about equal sovereignty. Equal sovereignty means that we have every right to determine and shape our own future. So when I mentioned to Patla, you see, we need to explain, because we have Tun Mahathir has got a view. I'm just mentioning nothing political. We got a view that if anything, not following the thing, we will be. So I said, Patla, you may be able, first, this was my word to him when I said, you know, foreign policy actually is not carved in stone. It must be liquid, fluid, based on dictate of time and the dynamics at a certain period. So we must, so what do you want me to speak? I said, you know, now since you want to be accepted by the American, so our East Asia Summit, we include India, we Australia, we include. So how do you explain they are no longer East Asia? They are not East Asia. Then Russia came, Lavrov was telling me, you have got a funny way of defining geographic or strategic interest. You know, we have got East Asia in Russia, some parts of Russia, and yet you do not want to include us. So our argument then is that now we want to form East Asia as a strategic partnership, not based on geography, based on interests. And that's how we succeeded in establishing, and in order not to upset Putin too much at that time, because we invited everybody, the leader, Australia, New Zealand, and all these things. So I said, okay, Putin wants to come and attend. I said, yes, but they're not a member of any, because after that there is a meeting of the summit. So I said, we can invite them, but our invitation should be on the basis of a friend of the chair. You know, this is diplomacy. I got all kinds of ways. They cheated the difficulty, you know, overcome the difficulty. So we called friend of the chair before we start the meeting. We invited Putin to make a remark before the meeting. His remark and sort of thing. After he finished, then we started the meeting. He goes out when we begin the meeting. That's diplomacy and dialogue. So we succeeded in forming East Asia Summit. Now East Asia has evolved into including all the big powers, like the ARF before. I remember Madeleine Albright. You know, she cannot stand two person attending and sitting at the same. I'm sorry, I'm just relating, because this will make, because foreign policy is not made in a vacuum. It is with people, with feelings. She cannot stand Myanmar and North Korea. You know, she used to say, you know, don't be misguided by the sweet looking and trying to be friendly, you know. When the North Korea start to speak and come at our, you know, they may look friendly, but they are very dangerous. So, but, you know, that's what the beauty of ASEAN. We have everybody, even though they differ, sitting on the same. If we have difficulty about anything, we cannot put the name. I remember we had ASEAN meeting with Myanmar there. The European do not want, the American didn't want. I think what we did was, we put a flag, just flag no name. So all these things are ways for us to ensure that our centrality, we determine the paradigm of how it should be, and not them telling us who we can include and who we cannot include. So I think it has worked very well. So I think that is the central role. So now, but I just want to close it as quickly as possible. I think security-wise, we need a new security architecture, and the security architecture will come in. ASEAN's contribution may be more understated, but no less critical. While it is not a military alliance, its emphasis is, which you seldom hear, preventive diplomacy. Preventive diplomacy is a very important element. It's conflict avoidance and regional stability. This has reduced the risk of large-scale interstate conflict in South Asia since the 1970s. Then we have the TAC, we have ZOPFAN, and all this sort of thing. So our internal challenges, I'll go quickly now, I'm skipping. Our internal challenges, ASEAN, I think please admit, ASEAN is not perfect, like any other organization. United Nations now is not only not perfect, imperfect and cannot function. But it is still there. We talk. So I think it's not our organization of course, can do much more. We rarely express our collective views on international issues fast enough. We wait. We still have work to do on having a unified approach to significant issues like human rights and climate change. And we currently face huge issues within the bloc itself. ASEAN journey is not merely institutional, but in my view, civilizational. ASEAN's diplomatic credibility, therefore, has to be tested, and it has been greatly tested by humanitarian and governance issues that we need to overcome. We need to improve our ASEAN mechanism, including our disaster management organization, the AHA Center, and all of these things. And the global challenges that we face, some of which have emerged from during Malaysia's chairmanship, like AI. First, let's take about the ones we know. It's becoming a significant factor, but also a massive risk for our bloc if not addressed well. Now, recently, yes, if you read now the SWIFT system, and even the Bank of England issued a statement to say that UK, clearance system is 2.5 years behind China. While in order Swiss system, in order for you to make clearance, you need 3 days to get clearance. Within seconds, the new yuan is cleared, and now payments are made in yuan through them for palm oil, for oil, and all so. So we have changed, but are we addressing this, the ASEAN? So I think we need to do this. Require actually a coordinated and inclusive approach to the ever-rising risk of AI and digital transformation. How do we handle digital transformation? So I think we also have fast-changing. I'm trying to cut short, so please forgive me if it is disconnected in some way or other. On the geopolitical rivalries, geopolitics now, you must not only talk about multipolar, because the world is no longer a multipolar alone. There is a subpolar and there is sub-sub. It's a very difficult thing. There are power centers in different regions playing its role. And this creates new dynamics, new challenges. And the US, China and US ultimately, I think Malaysia is one of the countries that President Xi decided to visit. So people ask why. I had to cancel my Hari Raya get together because I cannot get to the house because quite a number of roads were closed. So I think these are the new realities, the realities on the ground that we need to tackle. So, okay, I am going to close it. Dino, if you can bear with me just for a few minutes. What can ASEAN do with all these changes, things are taking place? International experts from other parts of the world are always puzzled with ASEAN's position and capabilities. And it is in a political world that often values large, grandeur, and dramatic statements, ASEAN stands out differently. We use quiet diplomacy, focus on results, and focus on working together, not getting political points over one another. ASEAN aims to generate combined value, not win a zero-sum game. Here's some ways ASEAN rules are strategically beneficial in this time of need. Let me just mention by point. ASEAN has presented itself as a place for generating dialogue and creating spaces for discussion across groups. 2, if you look at Sun Tzu, The Art of War, he says that the greatest victory is that which requires no battle. And we have done that. Generally, we have no battle, we have no, we don't supply arms to anybody. Millennia ago, Zanzu realized that the best, most crucial victory was not through an acting, humiliating defeat of our rivals, like many political actors desire today, but through effective diplomacy, strategic thinking, and the ability to find peaceful solutions. Secondly, ASEAN is a chooser of neutrality. Huh? We have chosen neutrality, but not passivity. And don't confuse between neutrality and passivity. This means that this regional bloc is known for its specific position on consensus and non-interference, but also that we still value fundamental principles, including those on human rights. Neutrality and mutual respect can be slow, frustrating, and challenging, but they also allow for continuous processes of buy-in and ownership from all countries involved without sidelining any parties. I think if you look at the first Indian Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, he says that, this is what he said, I quote, "The only alternative to coexistence is co-destruction." This age is called era of, disruption or destruction. And so we need to. So principal diplomacy is one that emphasizes doing the right thing while working together with our neighbors. It's the one that will build us up. ASEAN is successful in part because we do not use it as a forum for attacking our neighbor states for political gains. Future? ASEAN, however, is still evolving. We need more internal cohesion. We still are not cohesive on issues like that of Myanmar. Malaysia is playing its role, meeting all the parties, all the stakeholders. I think the secret about when you play the role of a middle person or facilitator, you do not want to gain from it. Nobody knows what you do. They will only know when the outcome is achieved in accordance to that. But if it is publicized, then you get into trouble. And then it will be a non-starter. So, I think what we need to do is that we need to modernize our diplomacy to include more voices, including those of youth society and digital engagement and prioritization. We need ASEAN to be a place for addressing the ongoing decline and trust deficit between and within nations. In conclusion, we should be very happy. In conclusion, it is vital, in my view, to reaffirm ASEAN centrality. You cannot be central if you are not doing anything. In order to be central, you have to be at the challenge and to provide. So not as a passive neutrality or inaction, but as a deliberate, values-driven framework for regional stability and cooperation. ASEAN centrality embodies a commitment to bring a convening hub, fostering inclusive dialogue, and maintaining strategic neutrality. So ladies and gentlemen, remember that centrality in ASEAN is not a given. It must be continually earned through sustained internal cohesion. So thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you so much, Tan Sri Hamid. I have 1,000 questions. That was very comprehensive and thought-provoking and comes from the heart. But my priority now is to ask the students. We have about 35 minutes, is that right, Cindy? The rule is very simple, one student, one question, not one student A, B, C, D questions, yeah? So please raise your hands. I will give the first batch of 3 questions. Anyone? Okay, the lady on top there. Anyone else? The lady in the middle, yes. And the gentleman on the left there, yeah, please. State your name and faculty and one question, please. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, good morning. I'm Hasina. I'm not a faculty or from any faculty. I'm from the Malaysian Youth Council, Majlis Belia Malaysia. And basically my question is quite straightforward. So you mentioned, like Tan Sri mentioned about regional solidarity. So where exactly is the solidarity when it comes to the Trump tariff? Because articles have been written about ASEAN's response, and one of them mentioned that the most we can expect is actually like a joint statement from ASEAN. And I'm bringing this up because we have the ASEAN motto of one vision, one community, and one voice. But whose voice are we actually going to bring up? Thank you.
Thank you. Lady in center.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Kuhanita. I come from the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, this faculty. My question is, ASEAN has often been described and also criticized as a talk shop, and we are branded as a forum and not really effective enough to tackle new challenges that are coming, especially within this century. However, these principles and methods are what makes ASEAN ASEAN, and that's what Tan Sri has also shared with us throughout the past talk, right? Do you see us evolving beyond this in the years to come? And do you think we should change the nature of ASEAN to better tackle the issues and challenges that are coming ahead for us? Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Iskandar and I'm from Southeast Asia Study. My question is pretty general. What is the biggest threat of our unity within an ASEAN, and how we can address the challenge?
And maybe a fourth question from me, Tan Sri, if you don't mind. In Europe, they found out that they have some blind spots that did not anticipate Brexit, and yet it happened. They did not anticipate Russia's invasion of Ukraine, yet it happened. And now the politics is becoming much more polarized. Yeah? For ASEAN, what would be the blind spots that we don't really see it now, but we may need to think about it and avoid it in the future? Yeah. The tariffs. How come there is no regional? Oh, you mean my? Oh. Yeah. The first question was, would that be an ASEAN position on tariffs? Given the talk about regional solidarity, Trump tariff.
Talk about the Trump challenge. I think in a way I alluded to it, because ASEAN, individually, we should not be trying to negotiate with the US. We should be negotiating on the collective basis, because all the problem on trade is collective, our own interest. So I feel I was frustrated, like your question. I think, why isn't there an ASEAN position on this? You know, we didn't come out with a statement. How we are going to handle? And we hear that this leader, that leader contact the American side and trying to solve. And Malaysia, we came up with a thing. We say that, oh, they have calculated wrongly. It's not 54% or certain things, 5.6%. But I think, in my view, there should be an immediate emergency meeting of ASEAN ministers of trade and economics in order to discuss about these issues and how we should manage and handle it. But I think ultimately, anyway, he has to unwind many of the things that he does. So I think maybe it is better, our way is better, we wait and see how China plays its part. And China is a more reliable partner in international relations and international trade. So I think things are resolving itself. Like Malaysia, we have two things, microchips and we have got semiconductor. And, you know, these things, they cannot simply put tariff, they will suffer, their industry will suffer. Now China has come out with saying how much it costs to make iPhone, how much it costs to make all these expensive things, you are paying so much. So I think the battle is still there, and you will see that America, as today, they do not like or don't understand how to handle decline. So I think this is the thing that they need to learn. that no civilization, no, for a long time you will be able to. That dominance is over. There is a new era. That era of cooperation among nations is very, very good. So I think ASEAN, there is a weakness of ASEAN. There is no ASEAN connection. And then talk show. When you talk about dialogue and diplomacy is always talking. And you will not be able to solve problems without talking. So whatever people may say about ASEAN, we have succeeded in creating security and stability within our region. There is better ASEANers than during my time. When when we wanted to create an ASEAN community, the ASEAN community is based on the 3 pillars. And that 3 pillars is working. On the economic, there are more trade, inter and intra-ASEAN trade than before. There is ASEAN free trade area, more. So I don't think we should look at ourselves just a mere talking shop. Yes, it comprises a lot of talking, but there are some successes. That's why I begin just now with talking. Let us try to itemize our successes rather than looking. But definitely our process has to be improved. And then the third one is, I think, greatest threat. Just now, when somebody asking about what is the greatest threat to ASEAN, is it? I think the greatest threat to ASEAN is the lack of trust, the trust deficit, and our lack of unity and cohesion not in our individual national interest context, but in the regional interest context, because we are strong as a group, not as individual nations. And the other threat is, if we do not close the gap between the big ASEAN members and the smaller ASEAN members whose development is still lacking, then we have a problem. And now we have included Timor-Leste into our group, so there will be more problems. So unfortunately, we are not like EU. EU, once you become a member, they will bring the equilibrium with so many funds. We don't have that. I think we need to develop that. And then Djalal talk about our blind spots. I think the blind spots, I consider there's so many areas that we consider as we can do better individually as ASEAN, like issues of haze. We have got issue of South China Sea, issue of Myanmar. If we don't handle it in a cohesive and united manner, then those will be the blind spot that will break us up, and it will cause, will not be breaking, but it will cause us to become vessel of different big powers. I think our greatest need is to make sure that we handle the rivalry better than it is now. So I am still not happy with our people-to-people contact, our empowerment of the youth. So all these things need to be done in order for us to be able to tackle the bigger blind spot, whether it is geopolitical, whether it's the security, or any other diplomatic issues. I would like to see ASEAN play a role in the global stage, but you must come up with a global position. On the political side, geopolitical, ASEAN is still very poor. We haven't come out, so people tend to, like the AUKUS or they ignore us. They form, have all the nuclear thing. We have got Sean South Asia, not a nuclear free zone. We have got ZOP Fund, which should make use of all these things in order to say, here, you need to. Otherwise, we'll disintegrate into belonging to certain big power groups that operate within our borders.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Now we take questions from the Zoom. As you know, this program is being watched around the region and also around the world. Yeah. So go ahead. Please state your name and ask your question. Yes.
Good morning. First, I would like to introduce myself. I am student of University of Malaya and Bachelor of Arts in International and Strategic Studies in the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. And I would like to ask a question to Dr. Tansri. In your years as a foreign minister, what is the most important thing that you have learned, about the dynamics of managing relations with other countries, and how can that lesson be applied to current day affairs, the current foreign policy environment? Yeah, thank you very much.
You see, I find anyway my own experience, and since your question is asking about what is my experience about handling, I find before, but of course I'm a person of the past, before there was a lot of interpersonal relationship, and this is important. When there's a lot of decisions that we make, not because of formal meetings, but because of engagement with each other. On the phone, when we have dinner, we call each other. And it's not only the foreign minister, even the wives were close with each other at a personal level. So I think because of that, there is that high level, comfort level for us to open up and talk to each other about the problems and how we could solve the problems. So I think this is still an important aspect. That today there is less of that. I find there is less of that. People tend to be very impersonal. You're very officious. So I am one person that like to see things done. The informal part of it will encourage us to come up with a very, very constructive decision.
And the friendship that you struck back then, it lasts a lifetime, right? It doesn't stop after.
It lasts forever. In fact, recently we had the Amity Circle meeting in conjunction with ASEAN. They moved from one place to another, moderated by Indonesia, and I think it is supported by Temasek Foundation. So I met all my friends, former Foreign Minister of Indonesia, Pak Hassan, Pak Marty was the moderator. Then I make jokes saying, I met the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Defense Minister of Australia, Foreign Minister of Japan, Foreign Minister of Korea, and people from the United Nations, and the Secretary General of ASEAN, which is unusual. Secretary General of ASEAN stayed for the 3 days that we were discussing. So I think what we want is not friendship, but a lasting networking that lasts forever. Because there are certain things that officially we cannot do, but if you have got this networking, that will help in order to find resolution to some of the problems.
Can I invite one more question from the Zoom? Yes, please. Yes, you're on now.
Wow, you're relaxing.
Yes.
Learn a little bit more about Malaysia's chair year and how it's dealing with core geopolitical challenges in the region, namely the conflict in Myanmar. We've heard there's some indication that ASEAN is frustrated with the 5-point consensus and the glacial pace at which it's addressing the conflict. What and how can ASEAN reform its contract? Does this require breaking with the ASEAN way? Are there ways ASEAN can leverage both its multilateral forum, but also bilateral initiatives to help resolve the conflict?
You see, sometimes the voice breaks and my hearing is not as excellent as it was. Then I realize age. But I'm not going to blame the age. But what I'm going to tell you is this. I think our strength is on consensus, but Malaysia, what we have done, which I think is very right, immediately we took the chairmanship because the expectation is very high that Malaysia should be able to resolve. Because Malaysia is one of the parties that is responsible for bringing Myanmar into ASEAN. I remember we had to work very hard because Myanmar was not an acceptable, but Malaysia was very engaging. Malaysia brought them in. But the Malaysian side now, the first thing that they did was to appoint a special envoy. Immediately, to appoint a special envoy. I think the only thing that I disagree about special envoy is that it's too short, the period. Because if you base on chairmanship, it's only for 1 year. And the question that you have is, what type of continuity? And this is the problem about continuity. The next chairman may not necessarily follow what the steps that you have taken or the negotiation you have begun. But our special envoy have done very well. He was a former the Secretary General of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a very seasoned diplomat, and all sorts of things. First thing that he did was engaging all parties, all stakeholders. That is important. If you want to become an effective facilitator, you must not have this is acceptable, that is not acceptable, this is not. So they engage, even the military junta. I remember telling the NUG government side at one time when I met them at the initial stage, they said they don't want to have any engagement with the military junta because it is illegal. I said de facto and de jure sometimes, they are in power. So in order to find a solution, you must be willing to engage them. So I think Malaysia did the right thing. And he has seen everybody. And according to the report, but there is a difficulty sometimes what they agree. My own experience as a special envoy for Myanmar, not only on OIC, but also when I was at the summit, ASEAN appointed me to be the special envoy. And Myanmar was there. Attending it, their head was there. And I was supposed to be the bridge to provide, to see the Aung San Suu Kyi. When I reached, they agreed. Myanmar also agreed. I went, reached Yangon. They say you cannot see. So this time, Malaysia, one of the conditions that Malaysia say is that, there is a humanitarian disaster in Myanmar, earthquake. Sometimes disasters bring blessings. So we make use of this disaster. Say, one of the first thing in order for us to function is to actually, all of you must agree to a ceasefire. I think I was told, I'm not privy, I was told that all parties agreed, including Malaysian junta. But we got now the message that they are bombing. So the military junta is bombing. But our Prime Minister has seen them and also I think, as far as the Prime Minister is concerned, I think it was a good effort on his part. And I think even the NUG acknowledged the fact that they are, they have seen the junta, they have seen the NUG side. So this is good. I think we are making a right move that you engage everybody, and by engaging everybody, you start the dialogue process. But I think there must be less publicity. This is my view. There must be, because it's difficult. If you remember, Kofi Annan was appointed by Ban Ki-moon to become a special envoy for Syria, I think. It was for Syria. But he has to resign because it was in the publicity and they come out with all kinds of statements. So I think it is important for us to be cautious. And the plus about Malaysia is that all parties think that Malaysia can find a solution. But the period is too short, and I'm not so sure whether, and I think Azril from the Foreign Ministry, when he gave a report to us at the Amity Circle meeting, he was very positive. And I think it's important that the negotiator, facilitator really believe in that process. And I'm hopeful.
Tan Sri, the previous question was from the United States. Now I want to ask imaginary situation. Say you fly to Florida and you play golf there, and for some reason you find out that you're playing with President Donald Trump, right? And for 3 hours he has no choice but to actually listen to you. What would be the personal advice that you would give President Trump, especially on Southeast Asia?
I think in the first place, he must have his team that understand the geography of Southeast Asia. Then where Southeast Asia is, and it is an important geopolitical area. And I think if you look at trade and investment of US, is with Southeast Asia. There's a lot of. I would tell him to come back to the international community. Protectionism has never been a successful, and don't forget, when you talk about tariff, which people have actually gained from you, actually the US economy has been supported by debts from these countries. So I would tell him, come back to the international community. No, you cannot be alone. This is not golf. You look at the whole and you want to make sure that it is, you are talking about multifaceted thing, and US must not abdicate its leadership if it wants to play the leadership role. You can't dictate. The days of dictating people is over. There are other players. So I think he may drive me out of the US anyway. But my view is, let us go back to the conventional, traditional diplomacy. And diplomacy has always been through cooperation, dialogue, talking to each other, not to, I am now reading a lot. For the first time, I understand better. Signing the decree, even that is questionable. You chase out students, you chase out everybody from your country, and it's not going to work. And I think US has got a lot to offer to the world, but they must change and understand the new dynamics of the world. So I would dare to say that to him, because I think US should not abdicate its role.
Would you ask him to be a bit more humble, or would that be too much to ask?
I was looking at his background and studying him from his young days. He never changed. So but I think that's the key, to have humility and humbleness. That what it was and what it is now is different. So I think if he's humble, then people will give America more respect. And the world is a different world from what we were born in. So I hope he will change, inshallah.
Okay. I think we have one last chat box question. Can I see the chat? Okay. So this is from Indonesia, from Erdem Nobel Ibrani. What are the prospects and challenges that ASEAN will face in the future amid the current global geopolitical dynamics, especially in dealing with the growing influence of countries such as China and the United States?
This requires a thesis, not the last question, because I think anyway, my view is US have to see how China handles diplomacy and not to create enemies of China. Even now, in the Middle East, you look at Europe, they realize that by collaborating and working together, we can live in a better world, there will be more trade, there will be more economic growth. And this is where I think there is a niche, a gap now for leadership. What the world lacks today is leadership. And ASEAN should play that leadership role, because we have no problem. We should take a more proactive geopolitical role, global role, and to say, look, this is what we can do. This is what we need to do. If you talk about China controls a lot of things. And ASEAN has benefited from our relation with China. So I believe ASEAN cannot just stand neutral in this case, because the well-being, security of the world, economic the economy and trade of the world depends on us becoming the bridge builder for peace, security, and cooperation.
Well, we have come to the end of our discussion, and I would like to thank all the participants online and offline who are here today, and special thanks and gratitude to Tan Sri Syed Hamid Albar for speaking so candidly, and it's really a nice to listen to you, easy but really thought-provoking points that come from your mind. So thank you very much, Tan Sri, and I give the floor back to the moderator. Yes.
Thank you, Tan Sri Syed Ahmed Albar and Dr. Dino for this insightful and engaging discussion. Please stay on stage, as next we will give a special remembrance from FPCI and have a photo session. Thank you. With this, we've come to conclusion. Thank you to everyone joining today live and also online. Please make sure to fill in the form displayed in the QR code to confirm your attendance in the lecture and get your e-certificates. The next lecture will be announced on Southeast Asia Lecture Hall website. Stay connected with us at @FPCINDO on Instagram. Thank you and see you at the next lecture. Some logistic announcement, thank you. And please join us here in person. We have lunch prepared at Dataran Sastra and our volunteers will guide you everybody, okay? Thank you and see you next time. May I request the guests to please come on stage for the photo session, please? However, it is okay, sure. Please be seated as we will have last photo session all together. Thank you.
that there are approximately 750,000 Southeast Asians who ply their trade in Taiwan from work, trade, etc., etc. And it could be quite